Have any of you ever stayed in a bed and breakfast?
No,
It's
I
a
don't
little
want,
too
like,
communal for my staying in a place on vacation.
I don't want to cook breakfast.
You don't have to cook breakfast. They cook it for you.
Yeah. Do you not know what a bed and breakfast is?
No, I do. Sorry. As a cook, I don't want to own a bed and breakfast because I wouldn't want to cook breakfast every day.
I didn't ask you if you wanted to own one. I said, did you ever stay in one? And you said, no, I don't want to cook
All right.
breakfast.
I think Gordo thought you had to make your own breakfast at a bed and breakfast,
did.
and that's
He's
hilarious.
Gordo, you gotta loosen that ketchup. Unscrew that cap a little bit. Yeah. Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, a show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about Ghosts. Ghosts went 50 episodes with 3 seasons so far on CBS. Today we're talking about episode 1, which was called Pilot, originally airing October 7th, 2021. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me as always, the boys, Joe, Ferg, Nick, and Gordo. What's going on, guys? And
Hey-o.
happy Halloween.
Happy
I
Halloween.
think you mean
Who's
the
Tara
groove.
Reid?
This is the spooky part of the dookie.
Gordo, are you dressed up as a donut hole?
No, actually.
As of right now, we cannot see Gordo's camera.
Oh yeah, no, you can't see me because I'm like John
he's
Cena.
John
right
He's
Cena.
now.
John Cena this year.
I'm John Cena. You can't see me.
Are you a murderous, perverted Irishman?
I am Irish and perverted, so technically.
All right, Gordo, the big reveal. Let's go. Let's see it.
Hi guys, me and the doodle of ketchup.
Oh, that. All right.
I can't see you enough to like.
You
Yeah,
can't see
this
the
is the doodle.
costume.
This is Gordo.
So Gordo's way to show us is to stand up and walk away from his camera. All right.
I asked him to back up.
The hat's a nice touch.
Yes, senor.
Yeah, looks like a sombrero.
So yeah, so for those of you guys listening, Gordo's wearing a red sombrero with a sign on his chest that says ketchup.
Go to Speedy Gonzalez for Halloween.
Real Three Amigos scenario.
I'm not Speedy Gonzalez this year.
Are you Slowpoke Rodriguez?
No.
And then to round out the table, we have Nick as Frankenstein, Joe and Ferg both wearing skeleton things, but Ferg's wearing a mask.
Spooky.
Oh, it's just a spooky mask. All right, I thought it was something I didn't know.
No, it's a mask I bought on Temu.
I'm WWF champion, Jay Gags, and now I'm going to put that belt down, and we'll go about the rest of our day.
Yeah, I got to take this mask off. It hurts my eyes.
First Halloween, I did an entire episode wearing a mask, and then you go, why'd you do that? This is an audio podcast.
Do you not remember my Green Ranger costume where I recorded most of it in a helmet?
I was a cat the first year. I thought about doing that again.
I think I was gluten-free Cheez-Its, and the costume was so crinkly I had to take it off like 2 minutes in.
I almost wore the Green Ranger costume again because the main character on this show was the Yellow Ranger.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think it was Power Rangers RPM.
Trini?
The later season I
R.I.P.
I didn't watch, but
Wait, Trini's dead?
Yeah.
Trini's been dead since the 90s. Come on,
How
bro.
did Trini die?
Car accident.
car accident.
Car accident.
She was a stunt double.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Sorry for you to just find out about this now.
Yeah, like my childhood. So Trini and Tommy are dead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a stunt thing. She was just on her way to a wedding with a bunch of people and
That's way
crashed her car.
worse.
But
Yeah, that's worse.
the person driving the car is Kevin James' wife.
What the fuck?
Oh.
Kevin James' current wife was driving the car that killed the Yellow Ranger.
Small world.
So she
Yeah.
wakes up every night just screaming sad, haunted Power Rangers dreams?
The ghost of Trini just going, Saber-tooth tiger!
Aye, Mrs. James. What are we going to do?
Ferg was way too jolly about that.
So to get back into this and not joke about anybody's death,
I'm sorry, it's been 20 plus years since she died.
it's never okay to laugh at someone's death if it's like in a tragic fashion. I shouldn't have to explain that to a grown man. Anyways,
Let's not forget all of the poor putties who passed away.
So many. So real quick though, to not get too off course, again, I want to welcome everyone. First off, actually Halloween, happy Halloween to all of you. But this is week 5 of our 4th annual Spooky Dookie, unofficially named Spooky Dookie October. So with that in mind, this is our last horror sci-fi themed show. And to be clear to all of you, this is the US version of Ghost that we're covering in this episode. Last year, if you're somewhat new to us, we covered the UK version. So if that's what you were hoping to listen to, go back and you can listen to that episode and then listen to this one, whatever order you want. Listen to both, though. We want both those downloads. So yeah, this is the US version. We're going to do our best to not spend the entire episode comparing the two. This is the first time we're doing multiple versions of the same show. So we kind of want to take this for what it is and not spend the whole time harping on the other version. But we will try to talk about that later as like a companion thing. So you have some, so there will be some comparisons. Obviously, it's going to be impossible. It'll come up at some point in this episode. But yeah, we're not gonna do a whole comparison throughout the entire time. So for those of you who want to watch this show before you listen or after you listen, you can find Ghost, the US version and the UK version, both on Paramount Plus. Additionally, you can go to Hulu if you want to watch Ghost US.
The newest season, though, of the UK version is not on Paramount. This summer, Paramount Plus was like, we're going to start over and air all of the UK Ghosts, and then we'll show the new season. New season? It's done. They have never played it. I don't understand why.
The newest UK isn't on Paramount?
Yeah, season 5 of the UK isn't available to stream anywhere. So we watched all of... When we did Ghost last year, my wife and I, we watched all of it. We had to buy them all from like Amazon or something. It's great. And we wanted to watch the newest season when it happened. It came out last October, but it's still not available anywhere.
Sometimes it's like a licensing thing. Like the people who own it out there might have exclusive rights for X amount of time. Everyone's contract's always different with that shit.
I wish you weren't so computer illiterate. I could help you find it.
Oh, I'm sure you could find it, and I'd be like, I can't watch it. My VPN doesn't work. I don't know. That sounds like something I would say.
Yeah, and then also IMDb 7.9 for the series, and Rotten Tomatoes 97 critic, 82% for audience score. 82 kind of matches the 7.9 on IMDb. Obviously, those are both audience. So the critic score is, I would say 97 is a bit high for something like this, but we're all obviously, we're going to get into it. And also want to mention season 4, as of the recording of this episode, season 4 has not started yet. As of the release of this episode on Halloween proper, when you guys are listening to this for the first time, season 4 would have just started a week or two ago.
I think the 3rd episode comes out on Halloween proper.
Yeah, so there will be, I said 50 episodes, but we'll be really around 52 or 53 by the time you listen to this.
Now, is this our first Halloween that we've actually released an episode on Halloween?
Oh, I'm not sure, to be completely honest with you.
Probably. I believe so. In 4 years with a leap year, there's no way we've done it twice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of silly they're waiting till Halloween to release it. They should have done it at the beginning of the month. Get a little boost from the holiday.
I agree, but I will say I don't want to stand on too many civic points here and beat my drum, but I think all holidays should be on the last Friday of every month, and everyone should get them off. Halloween being on the 31st, that's a bummer, man. It sucks when Halloween's on a Thursday. You're like, I gotta go work in the morning.
I mean, yeah, that happens. I mean, it depends on the 4th of July, same thing, you know what I mean? Sometimes the 4th of July...
Because Halloween is not a real holiday.
You shut your damn mouth.
Yes, it is, and it should be observed on the last Friday.
But you hate
I do dislike Halloween. For anybody who doesn't know, I've never enjoyed the concept of Halloween. I think it's insufferably stupid for adults to celebrate. But it's just not a holiday. Like, you don't get a fucking day off for Halloween. It's silly to even consider that you should. No.
Yeah, you should.
Why? I want to go dress up and walk around. You sound like a fucking idiot. Why would you get a day off for Halloween? What's next? Valentine's Day? You want a day off for Valentine's Day?
Yeah.
I didn't know you hated love and ghosts.
You sound dumb.
What are your favorite holidays? Oh, I like Thanksgiving.
What's wrong with Thanksgiving?
What's your favorite holiday?
Yeah, what is your favorite holiday?
Probably would be Thanksgiving, honestly, yeah.
Well, Nick's a foodie, but I always think Black Friday is a better holiday because you usually have that day off of work and you still have all that food and you have nothing to do.
Everyone knows the best holiday is All Saints Day.
Yes, it is.
Because it's my birthday. Yeah.
I forget, is Samhain the day before Halloween or the day after Halloween? It's all Hallows Eve, right?
It's just Halloween. It's just the real word.
I thought, a Devil's Night is the night before Halloween.
Not Dia de los Muertos?
I think that's in like March.
That's Day of the Dead.
Oh, maybe that is the first.
No, it's not even. I don't even think it's in October.
I think it's March. It's spring.
It can be. I think that moves around, to be honest with you.
But to get back into this episode, because we have stuff we want to cover, and I don't want to get too derailed too early, because I'm sure we're going to go on plenty of tangents, as we often do. I just want to remind everyone, quickly, go to S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find all the links to all of our socials, everything like that, and our merch page, where we now have 2 more shirts that came out specifically for the month of October. The shirt I'm wearing now, which is like the classic television shirt we have in multiple colors now, in an orange for Halloween, and the Casper Jackson shirt that is finally been released. So if anyone wants to go and pick one of those up, obviously as you hear this now, too late to have in hand for Halloween, but certainly year-round shirt. As you guys know, Casper Jackson is not October exclusive. He surfaces year-round now.
Oh, you just said my name, so here I am. Hi, boys. Happy Halloween. I'm just hanging out here with Tito. Janet's coming here soon. Oh, no. Did I say that out loud? Casper, don't curse Janet Jackson and her funny
Casper,
earrings.
I have a question for you.
Oh, anything, Jay.
Do you remember the first episode when you came and joined us on the show?
Oh, you mean when that boy Joe conjured me from the other side?
Yeah. Do you remember what show we were covering?
I don't. I think I was drinking a lot of special wine sodas that night. Which one was it?
Jesus Juice, I believe it's called.
We don't use that name where I'm at right now. It's very warm and they don't allow me to say that.
Well, Casper, the first time you appeared on an S1E1 episode was in 2023 when we covered Ghosts UK.
Oh, wow. That makes so much sense. My bad. I'm going to slap myself with my rhinestone glove later.
So maybe this is the episode where he goes away forever.
Hey, do you remember 5 minutes ago when Jay said we shouldn't make fun of people that died?
Casper Jackson is a character.
Casper Jackson died with childhood. It's different. He took a lot of childhoods with him. All right, back to the deep dark fires now. Bye, boys. See you soon.
Bye, Casper.
Bye, Casper.
Now, I will say this. We're not going to, like I said, compare to UK the entire time, but I do want to make mention really early, if you've only seen one and not the other, both pilots are essentially the same episode. It's they basically follow the same rough script. This is much like how The Office did it. It's they kind of using the framework of the first episode of the UK version to make the US. Big difference being a time gap, so this is a 22-minute standard. But we'll talk about more comparison stuff later. But I do want to make it known, if you have seen one and not the other, it is essentially the same episode for the most part. I would say they're about 80% the same.
No, I'd say more than that.
Start right off, first scene. Show opens, we see this elderly woman. She's asleep in bed, and we see like a man behind her saying, it won't be long now. And after he says that, you start to see the camera pan across the room, and it reveals maybe like a dozen or so other people that are in the room. And each of them are like from different eras. So we see like someone dressed as a Boy Scout. We see someone who's like hippie-ish, like a blue coat, revolutionary war type. The guy in the business suit with no pants on. And a few others, a Viking.
A greaser.
It's like, it's and they're all ghosts. It's like a ghostly village people.
It is very much a village people. It was the first thing I thought of rewatching this. I was like, I think just because we see the Native American guy too, that really helps to bring it forward.
They're saying like, oh, it won't be long now. And they're all just kind of waiting for her to pass on. And eventually you see her spirit rise up from her body, and she's like looking over and everyone, and she's like asking who they are. And one says like, I'm the ghost of your great-great-grandmother, Hetty Woodstone. And as, they're all starting to explain what's going on, she just abruptly like cuts them off and, and goes off into eternity. She doesn't want to join them in being like ghosts that live in this home.
Which we find out later on is being sucked off.
Sure.
That's one of the jokes of the show. When someone gets sent to like the afterlife, they call it being sucked off, which I felt was a missed opportunity in this episode because it's just a funny joke.
Strange they don't tell you why some people move on and some people get stuck there.
Yeah, they cut you off every time they try to explain it.
You know why? Because it's easier to not have to, because then people can pick it apart. So if you just kind of be like, this is our world, accept it, it just make it gives you like a hall pass to do whatever the fuck you want.
It also helps that like not everybody is a ghost. You know what I mean? Like it leaves open like, oh, why is it only these people here when so many more people have died? And it's like, okay, well, there's a reason they're here. You just don't know what it is.
We do learn within the episode that to be like a ghost that's there, you've essentially died like on that property. So that is like one like caveat. Like you don't just like wander over to where other ghosts are. Like they are all there because for one reason or another over the years, spanning hundreds of years, they've all died.
I think we've talked about this before, but I always think about when the Titan submersible imploded, all the Titanic ghosts being like, we haven't seen a person down here in 100 years. What were you guys doing? Like, oh, we came to do tourism at your graves. Like, get the fuck out of here, you fucking assholes.
Jack would never say that.
So now that the spirit has kind of moved on, the only living person in this house, all these ghosts are kind of here. And they're talking in the room now and like, well, now what? Like they don't know what's going to happen to the house, if anyone else is going to end up in there. I guess that is like a big uncertainty, right? If they live in Ghost World, if you live in a house because this is where you died, and then like, let's say they just demo the building, then do you get to move on? Or do you just have to walk around in a field?
Yeah, you have a proprietal? That's not the right word. You have a property guard. You have to be within a certain range. So if they build a new house, you can be in that new house, but you have to stay within the parameters.
If not, you're just stuck outside.
Yeah, because I'm sure the Viking wasn't in that house when he died.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. As they're discussing, what will become of this house, we flash over and we see like the cut to the lawyer's office. And this is like in New York City. And the lawyer's talking to this couple, Samantha and Jay. And they're looking at this house and like, oh my God. And, what's the catch? It's like, oh, there's no catch. Like, this was your great aunt Sophie. She passed. You're the only like living relative. And she's like, oh, I thought like, I met her like once when I was a kid, I think. But that was, years ago. And she's like, to be honest, I thought she died. It's like, nope, just passed. So congrats to you. You're the next of kin. Now it's like, what do we do next? Jay, the boyfriend, seems like is it boyfriend?
I believe husband. I think they're married.
Husband.
They are married, yes.
Okay. So Jay, her husband, is very like, well, we can't just like move all the way out to the middle of nowhere to live in this 300-year-old house. She's like, well, yeah, but maybe. And she's kind of going over like, all these things that could potentially be done. As they're talking, like the idea of turning into a bed and breakfast comes up. And then she's like, oh, that's like actually something we could do. And she's talking about how she's a freelance writer and he's a chef. So if he's a chef, then essentially like he could do what he loves to do at a bed and breakfast, and she can do her freelance writing, and make money while they're trying to get this thing up and running. So like there's a lot of reason why in theory this could work out. So she's justifying it. And he's like, you can tell he doesn't want to do it, but he's like, okay, I'll entertain the idea of this. Like maybe we'll head out there and just see what this place is all about.
Have any of you ever stayed in a bed and breakfast?
I don't think I have.
No, to be honest, no.
I have no desire, to be honest with you.
No,
it's a little too communal for my staying in a place on vacation.
I don't want to cook breakfast.
You don't have to cook breakfast. They cook it for you.
Yeah. Do you not know what a bed and breakfast is?
No, I do. Sorry. As a cook, I don't want to own a bed and breakfast because I wouldn't want to cook breakfast every day.
I didn't ask you if you wanted to own one. I said, did you ever stay in one? And you said, no, I don't want to cook.
All right.
breakfast.
I think Gordo thought you had to make your own breakfast at a bed and breakfast, and that's hilarious.
Gordo, you gotta loosen that ketchup, unscrew that cap a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, loosen that up, senor.
I wouldn't say I wouldn't stay in one. I would for sure stay in one in the right location. You know what I mean? Like
I wouldn't.
I don't know.
No. I'm sorry. You go to a hotel. You gotta lay some pipe. You can't do that at someone's house.
All right.
Again, I don't think you know what a bed and breakfast is.
It's not a.
I'm going on vacation and I just want to fuck and have someone give me bacon. Like Gordo, what are you doing?
But I will say this: not what Gordo's saying, but almost in the same vein. I kind of look at a bed and breakfast similar to the idea of like when you can get an Airbnb and it's just a room and you're sharing it with someone else. It feels like not private enough.
Here's where I draw the line. If I have to share a bathroom with somebody, that's a no-go.
Haven't you stayed in hostels?
I have, when I was like 21.
That's a young person's game.
Yeah.
I'm with you on the sharing a bathroom. I don't want that at all.
Imagine like someone coming in and dropping like a spooky dookie right before you while you're on vacation.
But there's not that many people at a bed and breakfast.
I'm at a point now where if I stay in a hotel, I'm mad that there's only one bathroom in it with 2 people. Like, I don't know. I've hit that point in my life where I'm like, there needs to be 2 bathrooms at all times.
In a hotel?
No.
I mean, like, you can't get that in a hotel, but if I would pay extra for the option for sure.
Oh, they do. I mean, you can use your room in the lobby. I've had to deal with that before.
Sure, but if you're on like the 7th floor, that's a huge pain in the ass. You know what I mean?
And the person that's not dropping the dookie goes on the first floor.
You know what? Talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to find the closest legitimate bed and breakfast.
It's literally in Winthrop, right across from the yacht club.
Well, then there you go. So, Nick, go walk over there and record the rest of the episode from the bed and breakfast and tell us how it is.
Nick paid $400 for
Just
the night.
Nick with 8 cats on him.
Excuse me, I've made soup. Would you like some?
Oh, hello, dear.
This is also a bed and dinner, I guess, as well.
Breakfast soup.
So there is one actually, and if I believe this is actually closer to Ferg, but yeah, there actually are a couple in Winthrop, and they look exactly the way you think they would.
If I have to share a bathroom, that's a delineating line.
Right. So from this scene, we get to our intro. And the intro is basically a nothing. It's just a title screen with that kind of like spooky music real quick, and it says ghosts. Not much to it. I understand for time purposes and for a show like this that has a lot going on, you can't really waste too much time on a long intro.
And even if you're going to I understand the idea of putting a longer one if you're going to do like syndication where you're like, and as the Revolutionary War guy, Isaac, right? Like, but in the episode, the pilot, we're trying to like give all these backstories. You want to be in and out as quick as possible.
Now, did you happen to look at the main character's IMDb?
I did. I looked her up, yeah.
When I saw she was in Hercules, I'm like, how old is she? But, I mean, she's about our age.
As a kid, yeah. She's in a bunch of the Kevin Sorbo Hercules TV shows
Yeah,
and movies.
a ton of them.
Oh, that Hercules?
Yeah.
Oh.
She's most well known from that CW show iZombie that got pretty popular.
Oh, is that who that is?
Yes.
She's the main character of iZombie.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
She's got a giant IMDb. That's where I saw she was on Power Rangers.
The hair color, I completely missed that. I watched like the first like 5 episodes of that show and then stopped, but not for really any good reason.
What's her name? Rose McIver?
Yeah. She's not just like a cameo on that Hercules show. She was on that.
Oh, she's like a main character, yeah. She's in
like
all the movies.
Lelea, something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's like LLEA.
I'll say this, what I don't want to come off the wrong way, but one of my biggest sticking points with this show is I wasn't totally fond of her acting. I thought it was a little too, I don't know, it felt corny at times.
See, I didn't notice that with her. I actually really liked her. I hate her husband.
Me too.
I cannot stand him, and it's not even like a character issue. I hate him as an actor. Like, he is not good.
I have in my notes a bunch of times that he's a douche.
He's also a douche. Yeah, he's a big-time douche.
I actually feel like she acts in a way that best suits an actual 3-camera sitcom.
I think the issue here is that the dude Jay is a theater actor, and he's acting in this like he's in a play, right? We're like projecting for the whole room, and I think that maybe comes off poorly on TV. Does that make sense?
It does. That does make sense, yeah.
But also, I've said this before too. I don't know what it is about that region of the world, but people who are from Australia and New Zealand can do American accents with like no discerning accent in them. It's very strange. It's very impressive.
Well, it can go the other way around. Watch Gordo do an Australian accent.
Aye, crikey, mate. Is that a croc?
I would have bet by a house that you would say crikey within the first 2 words, and I was fucking right on that one.
It wasn't bad. I mean, for what I expected was going to happen, he didn't do bad. Good eye, mate.
Hey, Jay, do some Bobcat Goldthwait for the audience.
Oh, I wish I could.
No. Do an Australian Bobcat.
Yeah, do an Australian. Oh, let me talk about it, mate.
Is he being smothered with a pillow?
Yeah, I think so.
Murdered, currently being murdered Australian bobcat goldthwait.
Like I don't even remember how Bobcat Goldthwait's voice sounds.
I don't know how you did that. You just sounded smothered suddenly.
Oh, what are talking about?
All right. Well, while Gordo gets some air, in the next scene, we see all the ghosts, and they're all kind of in the living room area of this mansion together. And we're listening to Trevor, who's the businessman type who has no pants on, and he's telling a story about just a night he was out in the Hamptons, hanging out with Tara Reid, who obviously none of them understand because they're all from different eras, and he's like, of all the people, the last to die. So like before him is probably like the Scoutmaster guy who was like,
that's what I
who
figured.
died in the 80s.
I feel like last to die is the best and first to die is the worst.
Yeah, you don't get anything.
Like, first to die is going to be tough. Like, Thor dies, and he's just like, well, I have to hang around here by myself for a couple hundred years. Like, that's a huge bummer. But when you die in the late 80s or whatever, you're like, oh, there's like 20 people here. I've got friends already.
Yeah, this isn't the worst. It's not lonely.
Unless you're the people in the basement.
Yeah, so he's telling the story, and like basically this is a means for this group to like entertain one another, because obviously they can't do much. So, you know, they just kind of sit around and take turns telling stories to get through the days.
They've got Talk of the Day. This is Talk of the Day, which is a daily recurring thing. They change people every day.
But like I said, the problem with his is like it's so contemporary, no one understands what he's talking about. Even when he's trying to explain that Tara Reid is from movies, some of them like, what's a movie? He's like, I've explained this so many times, and he's trying to just explain what a movie is.
That's a hard thing too, because they've been living with, at least in the modern contemporary time, they've been living with an older lady who's bedridden, right? So they don't have TV, they don't have anything. Yeah. So there's nothing to even show them.
That's true, because in theory, you would think that they live in this house and there'd be like a TV on once in a while, and they'd be seeing
radio or
some
something, yeah. Which they should be excited that a new couple's moving in, because it's going to give them other stuff to interact with and see and do.
Well, they are at first excited.
Isaac is very excited.
When he's done with his story, he gets frustrated and kind of just sits down. He skips through it because no one gets what he's talking about. Like the Scoutmaster, what's his name, Pete? He gets up and he's like, all right. And then, tomorrow is, food club. And we have Thor, who's going to be explaining the subtle differences between types of cod. One thing we learn about this Thor character is that, he's the Viking and very much fish obsessed. Like anything he ever talks about seems to somehow be in dealing with fish.
I kind of relate to Thor because, like, think of this, right? They were talking about food, but they haven't been able to have food. Thor hasn't eaten a cod in like 1,000 years, right? Like, Thor's cod is my Cheez-It. So, like, I definitely relate to that. Like, I could talk about Cheez-Its all day long. I haven't had one in, 10, 11 years at this point.
They had to choose, like, him loving fish because what else did Vikings do other than murder people and rape?
He can't long for the days of rape and pillaging. Yeah, he's going to have to...
This is how you pillage a village. Like, maybe we tone it down there a little bit, Thor.
What else do we know about Vikings? Cod. They ate cod. I'll say one other thing about this Thor is I often felt like he was kind of stealing from the Marvel Thor in the movies. Like, he takes a lot of acting cues from that, I felt like. And it's a totally different type of Thor. It's just a coincidence of the name. But I felt like he was kind of stealing some of his mannerisms at times.
Well, I mean, Thor from the Marvel movies is from another planet. Why does he have a British accent? Like, he's just kind of doing... I feel like anybody who's supposed to do that is going to do the same thing anyways.
He's from another realm, not another planet.
Yeah, I thought he's from Asgard.
Which is... whatever, nerds.
Do you guys like the musician Thor?
I'm unfamiliar with, to be honest.
I'm going to show you guys some Thor stuff later. If anybody, Gordo, you would love Thor. He was an 80s heavy metal guy. He would do like feats of strength and then also sing really good 80s heavy metal stuff. He's got a bunch of good records out. I think everybody here would actually genuinely enjoy Thor.
Also, Nick, just so you're aware, if someone like Ferg didn't correct you on nerdy stuff like that, when people listen who like that type of stuff, like, I know, like, if I listen to a podcast and they're talking about something I like...
It would drive them nuts.
And they don't... And you know that they're saying something wrong. It drives me fucking bonkers. So you need someone to correct you in the moment.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Who plays Thor in the new movies?
Chris Hemsworth.
who was supposed to play Hulk Hogan on a Netflix movie, and then that seemed to get scrapped.
Well, he's too busy throwing beer bottles in people's faces these days. Also, Hulk Hogan's beach shop.
Not Chris Hemsworth.
Not Chris Hemsworth, yeah. Record. Hulk Hogan's beach shop totally destroyed.
Yeah, the one that's like out in Clearwater, I think got pretty messed up.
Yeah, the one where he does he gets drunk and does karaoke every Friday or whatever, that thing, I think it got washed away.
To the best of my knowledge, though, I don't think he owns any of them. I think he just licensed out his name.
I think so. Well, the original restaurant for sure, and I'm not sure with these ones, to be honest.
I know there's a lot of memorabilia in them, and that's the one thing that makes me sad, where I'm like, oh, does he have belts and stuff in there that are now I went to the
original restaurant that's not there anymore, and there was a lot of really cool memorabilia at those stores, yeah.
Name somebody else who is more recognizable globally than Hulk Hogan. I can't think of anybody.
Snoop Dogg?
Casper Jackson.
Maybe soon, yeah.
I mean, Hulk Hogan's definitely up there.
Yeah.
Especially because of the height of the 80s.
I would say Snoop Dogg.
That's a good one, actually.
That's a good one, yeah.
Hulk Hogan is one of those people that, especially in his day in the 80s and 90s, even if you didn't watch wrestling, you knew who Hulk Hogan was.
Yes, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying.
He was in movies, he was on TV, he would pop into movies too. He was in Gremlins 2 for 2 seconds because he's Hulk Hogan, right? You saw him around so much.
I could think of an 88-year-old lady somewhere who doesn't know who Snoop Dogg is, and it wouldn't surprise me. She would know who Hulk Hogan is, though, I'm pretty sure.
Mike Tyson's close, I think. I think almost everyone knows Mike Tyson.
If he wasn't president, in all honesty, Donald Trump. If Donald Trump wasn't ever president, he would be one of those figures.
You think people know him less because he was president?
Yeah, what?
If he didn't ruin it with being president.
I will say this, though. I think I'm with Gordo on this one. Caveat of, obviously major political leaders, right? That's different.
Yeah, he's saying even without it.
Yeah, even without being the president of the United States, Donald Trump would be one of those recognizable people.
No, but I'm saying even in those places, like those villages who haven't developed past a certain point, right? They might not know who Donald Trump is, legitimately, but I still think they would know who Hulk Hogan is.
Oh, Michael Jackson before he passed.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson's one as well, yeah.
Everyone knew who Michael Jackson was.
Marilyn Monroe was another one where everybody knows her face, even though she's been dead for 50 years, 60 years at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, Adolf Hitler.
That is one for sure.
Is.
Yeah.
Although you could probably sneak in a couple Charlie Chaplin pictures and fool some people.
But if you show people Mussolini, they might not know who it is, right? You show them Stalin, they might know who it is.
The Rock.
The Rock's getting there.
He is.
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think he's the same level as Hitler. That's the weirdest sentence
I was putting him with Hulk Hogan, but
yeah, for the Hulk Hogan thing. Well, whether you're Hulk Hogan or Hitler, the importance to global recognition is obviously having a signature mustache. So,
wait, that could have been Joe's costume up in Maine. He could have been the Italian moose. He could have been Mussolini.
I thought you were going to say Hulk Hitler, and I was like, I don't think that would work so well, bud. I don't know how good that would have been going to the doctor today.
Hulk Hitler and Mussolini. There you go.
Could have just worn Bullwinkle ears and then used cannoli as a cigar.
It's Joe's one to do.
Send me some. I won't eat them anyway. It won't matter.
Do they make gluten-free cannolis?
I'm sure they do, but I hate cannolis, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, sure you do.
Give me pizzali any day.
That's the worst.
Pizzalis are delicious.
We're totally off the rails at the moment, and I promise to all of you listening, get us right back in a second. But it's not like how there's there's Beatles people and Elvis people, and there's this and that. There's cannoli people and pizzali people. They're the same people. The crossover for those two things is almost 100%.
Yeah, you and your cannolis and your eggplant parm can go jump off a fucking cliff, man. Over here with my people, we eat pizzalis and we eat chicken parm the way goddamn God intended.
Who's your people? Go over to your fucking neighbor's house and ask them if they know what a pizzali is.
I love delicious pizzalis. I'm not going to shit on them, but that's like saying, I don't like chocolate chip cookies. I only eat Oreos. It's they're two different things. It's not one or the other.
I think it's an Italian pastry, so they're in the same... I would rather have a champagne cookie, one of the cookies with the anisette cookies with the drizzle, and a pizzali.
No.
I love the anisette cookies. My wife hates them, but she makes them for me every year, which is very sweet.
The ones with the sprinkles?
Yeah. They're so good with coffee. I mean, you have to have them with coffee or something because they will dry your mouth out, but they are delicious.
No, I just don't like the licorice. Anything with like that licorice taste.
Usually I don't, but in an anise cookie, I like it.
Yeah, that's the one thing too. I like the taste, and I don't like black licorice, but
like we have like actual like star of anise, like a little thing of it, and we like just put them in tea. I love that shit.
You see, it's star-shaped anise.
Star-shaped anise, yes.
The chocolate covered starfish.
I believe they saying we built the city on rock and roll, right? That's
And the hot dog flavored water.
So, anyways,
happy Halloween, boys.
yeah, we get back outside. We see the couple, and they're outside, and they're driving up to the house for the first time. As that's happening, like all the ghosts are looking on, and you see like, oh, whoa, the guy in like the half suit, Trevor. He was like, wow, that body is slamming. And then Isaac's like, indeed, he'd have made a fine military man.
I love this closeted character. Like, it is so good, yeah.
And he's so good in this. His best scene, I think, is coming up shortly, where like it really pushes home what he does. But I was kind of hoping Trevor's joke was going to be that he meant the car.
Oh yeah, it could have been.
Because like he died in the 90s with like Buick LeSabres and these giant, terrible, ugly cars, and all of a sudden he sees like a modern car that he'd be like super into it.
I'm going to be the first one to break this, by the way, and make a reference to the other show. Isaac is not nearly as closeted as the UK counterpart. He is like, every time he speaks, it's something to be like, hey, by the way, I'm gay. Like almost every time.
Yeah, they really hit it home with Isaac.
I don't know if like, for our audience,
but
like,
it is funny every time. Like I didn't feel like it was overused.
Yeah, it's well done, but
it was just done
very
with more
over the
subtlety
top.
in the other show where it's very blatant anytime he brings something up here. So the couple's like pulling up and they're looking at the house and like, oh my God, like this is fucking huge, and kind of just admiring like the area and how different it is from being in New York. Because she's talking how folksy it is. Jay's like, yeah, I mean, the guy at the store did call me a woman for wearing a video game shirt, which didn't make much sense, but okay. He's just wearing what, like an Atari shirt, right?
It's just like an Atari shirt. I mean, I don't play a lot of video games. I bought a Switch this year of the first video games I've played in probably 20 years. It's very fun, but I think if you were going to call somebody like a name for that, the Atari shirt's not the one you do. If he was wearing like a Echo the Dolphin shirt maybe or something, I don't know.
It's not even that. It's inherently like, isn't the stigma that like video games are a guy thing? Like that's like the thing that they've been trying to break away from for years.
Yeah, you should have called him a virgin or something.
Yeah, it's like to say like, oh, look at this girl in his video game shirt. It's like the polar opposite of what the what all the like stereotypes around video game players are.
The other joke that Carl makes later lands way better than this one.
Yes.
You know what I don't like? I feel like he's going out of his way to be super negative. He's like miserable they're going to this place. Who wouldn't be excited about inheriting a mansion? Because this is a fucking mansion. Like,
this is like the first iteration of him sucking.
You're forgetting a couple of things though. One, property taxes. Two, way more important, upkeep and keeping that heated. They're in upstate New York where it gets very cold, and they have to heat a whole mansion so it doesn't fall apart. That's gonna be a very expensive endeavor.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago where someone inherited a mansion and didn't want to live there. Oddly enough, when we did Struck by Lightning. So it's, I understand the idea of inheriting a mansion and having the opportunity to like make money off it and do all that stuff is great. But if I inherited a mansion next week and I found out it was in like Topeka, Kansas, I'm not just going to like up and move my life just because I have this property.
They're not traveling that far. They're from New York City and they're going to upstate New York.
Sure, but it changes your life.
I mean, like if I could inherit a giant house 2 hours from here, yeah, I'm going to live there. Like that's the no-brainer. I get the mansion thing. Maybe it's not going to work logistically. But yeah, I mean, the distance isn't the problem here, I don't think.
I don't know. I think in both times, like the option on both of those shows, where, when I think about it myself, the idea of like, well, or I could just sell it and make a ton of money and then just live where I want to live and live more comfortably than I was before is also an option. And I don't think a bad one.
Living in New York in a small apartment, like that money's going to go so quick. You know what I mean? Like that's not a lifetime's worth of money. You're going to spend $3,000 a month on rent. That's all.
And also in both of these scenarios with this and Struck by Lightning, it's not just a house. It in theory is a form of income too.
Sure.
So I mean, it's not just a house that you have to take care of. It's a way that's going to generate money that you can put into it and make your life a little easier.
And also, like, not obviously I don't live in a fucking mansion, but like I moved an hour and a half north, right, to buy a house, right, where it's different. Your life changes, but I'm happy I have space and things versus living in an apartment where I pay the same amount of money, right? Like you have to give up a lot of stuff for it, but you get other stuff out of it. So I understand wanting to do it, to be like, we have space now. I can go in a backyard. I'm gonna put a skateboard ramp in my backyard. That's gonna fucking rule. I couldn't do that in the city.
I'm going to be the second to break the rule. That's where the UK one did things better. They moved there out of necessity. They were poor. They had nowhere to live, nowhere to go. So they're like, oh, we got a house. We can move there.
Yeah.
This one, they're kind of doing okay. So there's no reason that they would have to. She just wants to, and it's a better house. But I think the necessity was better.
And I think as we talked, it's just, again, like both of these shows, it's not a cut and dry answer, like, because we are not all on the same page of what we would do in the same situation. So I think it does make sense for there to be conversations. Because it's not as like as easy as this is the right thing to do. Everything's different to an individual. You know how they would perceive that situation.
So there's only one way to find out. If you are a fan and you have a mansion and you want to will it to us,
yes,
we'll take it.
We'll take it and we will film the results.
Do we all have to live in it together?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
this decision's getting a lot easier.
Well, now we could pay the property tax easily.
But they could be ghosts.
So they cut back inside, and all the ghosts are noticing that they're about to go into the house, so they're all starting to scatter. And while they do that, the Viking dude Thor turns around, and that's when he bumps into like that greaser guy Crash, whose head falls off. He's not much a part of this episode. You get the gag where his head falls off, and then they don't. You see him not till the end of the episode again.
Yeah.
And I do guess I hate skipping ahead, but you don't really see him, I guess, again in the series.
Why did nobody help him?
They were nervous. People were coming in.
That's another one. And not to harp on it. In the English show, they're constantly picking his head up for him. In this one, the rest of the series, it's just the body walking around for the most part.
But I guess he's like seldom seen from what I read. I didn't watch it like you did, but. So now Sam and Jay walk into the house and they're like, okay, well, this is pretty huge. So I think now even Jay's like, this is not the worst situation. And they're looking around and like, there's definitely some advantages to having a place this, big. The excitement of the situation, they kiss and the camera pans. And as it pans around, you see that there's, some of the ghosts are standing next to them as they're doing it, which I thought was actually a good, good reveal the way they do it with the camera that way.
They did that in the UK one too.
I think just in general, if you're doing a show like this, that's the best way to show these people. You know what I mean? You make the reveal, and they do it a couple times in this episode. I think a good thing to do in this too is that they walk through the walls. So eventually, towards the end, it hammers home what's actually happening versus just like, these are other characters in the same room with them.
So as the couple begins to, talk a bit more, that's when, the ghosts find out that Samantha is a descendant of the owner of the house. So, now they know that she's related to Hattie, was it? Or Hetty? Hetty. So, one of the ghosts that's there, who is, the great-grandmother who talked to the old woman who died in the beginning, now knows that her and Samantha are, distantly related. And I think they're becoming a little bit more warmed up to them too, because they see how excited she is, that they're nice people and stuff like that. But now, as they're like, oh, it could be nice having this young couple around and they could be fun to watch. And Trevor's like, oh, hell yeah, it would. It's like, okay.
This gave me Kevin vibes.
The what?
That line gave me Kevin from The Office vibes.
Sure, any creep really.
Yeah. Classic sitcom creeper.
Yeah.
The sleazeball.
It feels like a Revenge of the Nerds line or something.
I'm trying to think of someone who it's more, I think more young, just because of how he looks. There's people that I feel fit that trope too.
What about his counterpart in British Goats?
I feel like that character
British
very
Goats?
You definitely just said British Goats.
I said Ghost. No, he's very different. I want to bring that up, but I didn't want to break the rule again. How he's way more sleazy in that, but politician sleazy. And
I want to do a goat scream, but I knew it would break my microphone. The goat bleats are like,
But do it British, Joe.
I don't know how to. Normally I play along, but I don't know how to do a goat bleat in a British accent.
Boy, mate.
That's not.
It's just talking.
And I think you're still Australian.
Yeah.
No, Brits also say mate. Oh, mate.
I think if you said brev maybe, or geezer.
again, they're all starting to warm up to the idea of them being in this house a little bit more. And no sooner do they start to like loosen up a little bit, she's like, oh, hold on, before I forget. And she grabs this thing of sage and she starts to light it. I'm like, what the hell is that? And then when Jay's asking her what she's doing, she's like, oh, like this is, I'm just cleansing the space. This house is old, so, you have to light stuff like this to help ward off evil spirits. And they're all like, oh, no. Although I'll say this, none of them are very evil. So even if Sage did ward off evil spirits, I think they'd all be in the clear, right?
Yeah. I think Thor's probably the closest one. And but I do like how when they're walking away, the hippie's like, let me get a hit.
Yeah.
Well, also, yeah, like Peter, the Scoutmaster guy's like, he smells like, oh, this is actually pretty nice.
And Thor says it reminds him of a torched village.
Yeah. So with the idea is she's like lighting the sage to ward off spirits, and they're all like, ooh, this smells so nice. And it's actually attracting them all.
Has anyone ever done that before? We did it when we moved here.
I've done it.
Yeah. I think it's just like I'm not very superstitious. I'm a little stitious, but it's one of those things you're like, if someone's going to do it, you're like, I'm not going to go against it.
Kyrie Irving used to do it in the middle at center court.
Oh, he's sane.
Yeah, he's totally of right mind.
I was going to ask who that is, and you said center court, and I'm like, so he's a basketball player?
I think he's a flat earther.
No,
too.
He was a judge, Joe. He's in the center of the court.
Hear ye, hear ye. Kylie Irving now presiding.
You're also missing the best line of that whole thing when the Scoutmaster's like, ooh, as he's chasing after him, and he goes, let me get some more of that ghost repellent.
I didn't even notice that line.
I didn't either, to be honest. So that's what
I heard it. I just don't agree that it was the best line.
He was so happy chasing after her.
Pete is a very happy-go-lucky character. I feel like you want that happy person to be in this bunch of people if you're going to be there for eternity. You want somebody who's got like good vibes going, right?
Yeah.
When the two are talking, she tells Jay how she did a little bit of research, and apparently her ancestors were like actual robber barons, like cartoon evil, and they used to sleep on like bed of gold.
We only did that once.
And yeah, we only did that once. But everyone is again like, oh, they seem nice. And that hippie girl, she's like, oh, they remind me of that couple I was married to when I was in the commune. Oh, and a little bit like this other couple when I was in a cult. Like she was real deep in there.
I like to think she was one of the Manson family.
Yes. I hate hippies, but I'm like, if she's like a Susan Atkins type of...
Oh, so you hate hippies unless they're fucking murderers?
Not all of them were murderers, Jay.
Yeah.
That's true. Charles Manson wasn't a murderer.
Also, I don't want to say it to give away exactly where I live, but one of the Manson girls was born in my town.
Oh my God, do you know her?
Well, she moved very quickly. She's still alive, but when we were looking at places to, we're looking at houses and you're looking up the towns and stuff, and I was like, what about this town? And I was like, one of the Manson girls is from here? Take my money.
So as these ghosts are sitting here and like, kind of like, maybe it's not so bad that these guys are going to be here, and actually starting to warm up to them and saying how they're rooting for them, they hear Samantha goes, this place is going to make an amazing hotel. And then that's when Thor's like, what is hotel? And that's when Isaac has to give the explanation. He's like, I'll tell you what a hotel is. It's our worst nightmare. And you get this like flash to like, there's like narration. So Isaac's narrating the scene, but it's all kind of like fantasy, seeing what could be if this place becomes a hotel. And you're just seeing all these people running around and how busy it's going to be, and like how people are going to be like walking right through them at all times. This is also like when we find out like in the show that if you walk through a ghost, it's like painful for them. So like this is like in this like flash forward situation where they're kind of teaching us about like what a hotel could do to them. This is the first time that that's revealed here.
Nothing makes me happier than Thor's hatred of litter. Like that endears me to his character so
disagree.
Fucking much.
I hate that joke because it's a fine joke, but it's the wrong fucking ghost. How are you not gonna do the crying Indian joke with the Native American guy? Throw it down and do the one tear down his eye. Like that's
I feel like they should have done it with Thor and then cut to the Native American character with the tear. That's how they should have done it.
I think you're right. I didn't think of that in the moment, and I think that was like a super missed opportunity. But I do think there is something funny about the least likely character to care being the one who cares the most.
Somebody who lived in a world with no litter.
If they did the tier with him, I feel like we would have been like, Oh, okay. Like, that's a little too
No,
low-hanging.
it's so long ago that like that's not like an overused. I don't know.
I will say this though, we're probably the last generation of people who know that reference also.
I mean, last time I saw that joke was Wayne's World. Like, that's how long ago that was.
Wayne's World 2 that came out in 1993, so that was 31 years ago. I'm sure if you ask like a 14-year-old...
Or The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor and don't turn around.
I love that it fades to black and then you hear the scream. Fuck, that era of The Simpsons was so fucking
Wayne's
good.
World 2 came out so long ago that when it came out, I was like, wow, that guy looks just like Jim Morrison.
And then is that Tim Meadows, I want to say? Is Sammy Davis Jr.? Like, now dig this, cats.
I remember that. I don't get your reference that guy looks just like him.
I'm saying it was that long ago that like I was so young that in my brain I was like, wow, that looks just like him. Like when you saw the two Undertakers and you thought they looked identical until you become an adult and look at it again.
That's also right after the Doors movie with Val Kilmer came out. So, like, there's also even more weird thing because if you're a kid, you're like, so Jim Morrison is the guy from Tombstone? You're like, I don't know. It all congeals. Or that movie Top Gun, Gordo's favorite movie.
The movie I've seen before.
No, you saw Bottom Gun.
I just this in his search history.
Do you remember Val Kilmer's character?
In Bottom Gun?
In Top Gun.
Okay.
Top Gun. Yeah, it was Ace.
It was Ace and Gary.
Yeah, it was Ace Frehley.
Sorry, Ice.
It's Iceman. I have to correct you. I'm sorry. I know that's the joke, but fuck you. You've never seen Top Gun.
I have.
I wish you said Ace Man more than anything else, though. But Jay, I appreciate the Ace Frehley joke.
Terrible live. Don't go see him. I saw a fucking drunken asshole play karaoke songs of Kiss.
Oh, it's just Ace Frehley?
Yeah, solo.
Well, he toured
terrible.
the band. He hasn't been in the band. Well, I mean, except for the 90s. He's been out of the
I
band.
was going to say,
since,
when I
82?
saw them, which is the same tour as Ferg, I believe Ace Frehley was in the band at the time.
Well, they did the Rock and Roll Circus thing where they did the reunion tour, and that lasted for like 3 years.
Psycho Circus?
Sorry, Psycho Circus, yeah. Rock and Roll Circus is the Who Rolling Stones thing.
Yeah, because unlike Aerosmith, they knew to play their hits. Not honking on Bobo the whole time.
Skibbo-dabba-dabbo! I'm still so mad I didn't get one of those Aerosmith harmonicas. Because they were kicking around Newbury Comics for years when I worked there. And I was always like, I'm going to take one of these. And just never did.
I have a question. Is the Native American on this show, is he a legitimate Native American or is he a guy in costume that died? Because his speech patterns lead me to believe that he's not an actual Native American.
They led me to believe that he's just not a great actor. So after when they flash back to reality, or back to like modern times out of this like sequence of what the hotel could be, they're all starting to talk about how when you get walked through how it's like probably the worst pain that they can think of. But when Pete says it, he's like, oh wait, no, the arrow through the neck. That's it. I don't know if we mentioned that the Scoutmaster guy has an arrow through his neck.
That's a bummer. That's a hindrance, right? I mean, it's a weird thing to think of that when you die, whatever you're wearing and however you die
Goes with you, yeah.
It goes with you. Like, that's such a huge bummer, but like, and that's why all the people are so scary. And when the first time you see Sixth Sense,
We to believe that the arrow was alive and also died. This is a ghost arrow in his neck.
hey Pete, it's not great for me either. Like, god damn it, stop talking.
It's smart. Doing it through the neck, as far as like for the show goes, is so easy because you just have to like attach it to both sides of his shirt and make sure that the shirt's not loose at the neck.
Well, no, that's why he wears the scarf thing, because it's definitely just like, it's like a collar.
Yeah, you don't have to do much like effect wise. It's like super easy. Whereas if it went through his head, like, or his forehead or something like that, you'd have to constantly be doing like makeup and practical effects and CGI.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's why Steve Martin just wore the funny like joke thing.
Because like that's the thing about, and that's probably why like the headless character gets so little time on this episode, because it's so much extra work to have to do that. Yeah.
I do feel the arrow, if it was in his head, would probably be a little easier on the actor, because I feel like being in the neck, it would constrict them and get in the way.
Yeah, but like I said, it's probably just on the collar of his shirt, so it's not, it's not too crazy.
But I'm sure like more than once it's been like, cut, lunch, and he's like, ooh, lunch, and like goes to walk into his trailer or whatever and gets caught.
So now Thor's stance has changed from I'm rooting for them to we must kill them. One of the girls like, we can't kill them. It's like, yeah, it's not nice to do that. It's like, no, we physically can't. We can't pick things up. I can't pick up a gun or throw them off some country bridge. I guess something from her past.
This is silly too, though, because if you kill them and they aren't good people, then you still have to live with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, they like them. They do. It's not that they think they're bad people. They just don't want the hotel. So in theory, if they get stuck with them, they don't hate them. So it could be worse.
Yeah, but they could kill them. And what if somebody buys it and demolishes it? That's even worse.
Makes a condo.
Isaac, by the way, and this is another time where when they're talking about and even if we could physically grapple with them, that husband, he would definitely overpower us. Have you seen the shoulders and that V-shaped back? By the way, no offense to Jay, he's a very skinny dude. And in Isaac's brain, he's this big, buff, imposing, manly man.
Don't forget, though, the only time in my life I've ever had the V jealous muscle was from emaciation of drugs and no food, not for working out a lot. When you're really skinny, those lines come in pretty good.
Are you saying that that's what Jay's doing?
I'm not saying on purpose. I'm just saying if you're that skinny, you look more toned because those muscles are showing because there's no fat around them.
Yeah, but he's not toned. He's just thin.
Yeah, we don't even see it. Yeah. we get him in the shower later, so you see a little bit of him shirtless, I guess.
He's got a little bit of definition.
Oh, how was the dong? Good stuff?
They didn't show all the way down, unfortunately.
Isaac seems to think so because he's watching him in the shower, which I think is the greatest short little scene, cutaway thing in this episode.
So they're talking about how they're gonna have to do something, and that's when they realize that the best thing they could probably do is just scare them away. They're ghosts, they're gonna have to figure out a way to haunt them out of this place. And that's when the Native American character, I don't know the character's name. There's too many of them to learn all the characters' names in this episode, and they don't really refer to most of them by name anyway. So it's
I feel like with Thor and the Native American character, they just took the caveman and split them up.
Exactly.
His name is Sassapis.
But yeah, so most of these characters,
they call him Sass through the show, though.
Most of these characters don't get identified by their name in the episode proper. This episode, at least.
Yeah, unless it's a main talker.
Thor's name is Thorfinn, so
yeah. So Sass, for argument's sake, the Native American, he's talking. He's trying to defend, we should be respecting them. There's a line here, But as he's talking about it, Jay walks into the room and walks straight through him, which, as we know, is extremely painful for them. And he goes, found my jacket, and runs back out again, walking through Sass a second time. So as soon as he's out, he's like, you know what? All right, let's haunt these bastards out of this house.
I think that's a little rash.
I don't like that point that it hurts them to walk through because they walk through walls. They show them walking through walls.
That's on their own. Maybe it's because the walls are inanimate and the living has maybe a living essence.
Yeah, it's weird. It's any supernatural show, whether it be a movie show, you always gotta have to just learn what their rules are and accept them for what they are.
Also, they have to walk through walls. They can't open doors.
But we always obviously we're a show that over dissects things. And when you're looking for logic where there is none sometimes, that's one thing when we're talking about a normal live action. When you're talking about spirits and science fiction-y things, you have to have some sort of a give on some of this stuff. So in their world, they say walk throughs hurt if it's another person and not if it's a wall. So that's just what we have to assume to be true.
That's why I think our generation was so perfectly set up for these things by the X-Files, where every episode it was just something so different. And the rules always change that you just kind of became accustomed to being oh, that makes sense. That's a fish who lives in the sewer, but he's a man with giant teeth. Okay, that's the X-Files. So
I never saw a single episode of the X-Files.
Really?
It's so good.
The X-Files is amazing.
I never saw it either.
Especially as an adult, go back and watch it now. That's a good binge.
Yeah, it's a fun rewatch. Cher really loved that boy.
Okay, I'll watch it. I mean, I love Duke.
I don't think that lines up with the kind of stuff I like to watch, but I am kind of surprised because it seems right up Nick's alley.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even what. Nah, I've never been a supernatural.
Do it for Hank Moody.
Yeah, I'll do it for Hank. But yeah, no, I've never been a big supernatural fan, necessarily.
You like Star Trek?
That's not supernatural.
That's science fiction.
Careful, Jay. You're gonna get the hate mail now.
So do we do supernatural versus science fiction? But Aliens isn't supernatural necessarily, right? That could be.
They can go either way. That rides the line.
That's science fiction too, right?
We had this conversation, didn't we?
Yeah, it's why we can't do alien shows for Spooky Dookie. We
can. We said that we could. I thought we said that
I feel like Alien is kind of its own category. More, it's not what you think of when you think of Halloween.
I agree. And I think there's alien movies and TV shows that can be both. Like I think of like A Fire in the Sky feels supernatural and sci-fi at the same time.
It depends on like what tone you want to take with it.
If you think of some of the not to man, we're tangent heavy today. If you go like back and you think of the shows we've covered for the last 4 years for this theme month, and then you think of some of the like alien related shows we've covered, like they don't feel like they would have fit in. Like if we had done Out of This World or like something like that doesn't feel like it works here.
I don't know. Homeboys from Outer Space could be spooky.
Out of This World would have worked because they had Uncle Beano. he's a horror.
I did love Uncle Beano.
Uncle Beano, yeah.
Uncle Beano was definitely in the S1E1 Hall of Fame.
Definitely.
Next scene, we see Sam, and she's like looking at color samples in their bedroom when Jay walks in. He's like, "Oh, I brought some coffees from the gas station because the tap is disgusting, so I didn't want to use any water from it." Mentions how Carl says hi and called him a snowflake for wearing flip-flops.
See, that makes more sense to the Carl character to me.
I'm a little confused why the house is so run down, because it wasn't abandoned. It was just lived in by the lady that died.
An old lady, though. She wasn't like...
But they say she was bedridden, so she couldn't keep up on the house.
You would have think she would have had people come in for upkeep or something, though. Like, the house wouldn't be like that. She wasn't bedridden her whole life.
Right, but look how much... The Earth can reclaim a building pretty quick.
Must they got that family money?
Well, she wasn't... she was just laying in bed, just withering away, and not spending it in the right direction, I guess.
Bed rotting, as the kids call it.
So, she's debating between a couple different colors for the room. Jay's kind of like, "Oh, okay, so we're looking for paint samples. We haven't really decided if we're going to live here yet, but I guess we're we've moved on to paint colors."
What would you paint that room?
We do have a lot of yellow in our house, but I wouldn't do canary yellow. We have like a more bright, high-gloss yellow in our dining room.
Neither of those colors are really for me. It was like between like a yellow, like a light yellow and a purple. Not really the way I would go.
I would have went with this color right behind me.
Gray.
Yes.
Well, that's the HGTV thing.
Beige.
I mean, go on Zillow right now and look at houses.
Everything is
for
gray.
Sale. Everything is gray and like ocean light blue. Like that's just like the modern thing. Yeah.
It's because you keep it simple and it kind of works like those grays. No matter what you own, you could like bring it in and it will like blend into it somehow. You know what I mean? Like you can have like yellow furniture and put it in a gray room and it's going to work. Or you could have like a red couch or a black couch. Yeah.
No, but if you're doing a bed and breakfast / hotel, you want those neutral colors because you're going to have to eventually update. So with those neutral colors, like you said, any furniture you bring in will match your walls already. So you're not going to have to paint every time.
If you do canary yellow in the dining room, you always have to get furniture that matches yellow, which I guess would just be black or white. But
right. So yeah, they're just having a little conversation about like, I don't know. We find out that she has like this weird kink where she likes to role play couples from HGTV.
Yeah, they have a real hard Chip and Joanna Gaines thing on this episode, huh?
I felt like that was like a reference that like I don't watch those shows, so I was like, I had to Google it to see who she was.
Yeah, they're like the Hulk Hogan of the HGTV. Like,
when you walk into a Target and there's just like a weird square of the store in the middle of the store filled with
that's
sticks
all them.
that smell like vanilla bean. That's all them.
I mean, the other option would be the Property Brothers, and they'd just be pegging each other.
The Property Brothers, I feel like, exist only to be on TV when you were in a doctor's office waiting to go in. Like, that's the only place that show I've ever seen it. And every time I'm like, who watches this?
My mother watches that.
I'd say my mother watches the Property Brothers, too.
I will say, though, having been in that situation where, like, you're, like, looking for a house, or you're going to, not even that, you're just going to move, when, like, you're going to change wherever you're living, I feel like you can get sucked into the vortex of all those shows. I was watching ones that, like, meant nothing to me. It was like, love this lake house. Like, I don't know what I'm watching this for, but we're going to watch it. And we would do that for hours and hours. Also, that was during COVID, so our brains were mush, but...
Just hits you with the, oh, that's nice. Wish I could afford it.
Those shows, too, it's like a hacky joke, but those shows are always like, we want a 5-bedroom house with a 2-car garage. We don't want to put any money down, and our budget is $7,000. And they're like, okay, well, we found you 8 houses to look at. You're like, what the fuck is this for? This is not a real thing.
And the dude in it is always like, yeah, I need an area for my projects. I'm like, dude, you don't have any projects.
You do nothing, bud. Yeah. You mean your fucking PlayStation? Come on.
I love that they're always like butterfly trainers or like.
Yeah. I blow glass for a living and I make $17 a year. I'd be like, oh, cool. You can probably buy this old Colonial.
You can't even buy old cologne for that amount of money.
No. And there's nothing against glass blowers. I'm just saying it's not a lucrative business.
Unless you make the bongs.
I still don't think that's a lucrative business because I sometimes see bongs for sale in pizza shops for like $8. I don't think that's a big market for high dollar purchases.
Yeah, just go down to Old Orchard Beach. They're on every corner.
Right, every corner for like $4.
In Providence, there's a great glass shop that has like artists. I said that.
Gordo
really
only
weird.
smokes out of artisanal bongs. Thank you very much.
They have a cactus that is way too expensive that I want to buy.
So now we cut to like later in the night and all the ghosts are in the living room together, kind of game planning how they're going to go about this haunt situation. And this is when we learn that like each ghost has a different ability as a ghost, like almost like a superpower. They're kind of like a weak dead X-Men. The way it works. They all have like kind of a power.
I'm like curious how that works, and I'm also curious, like, are they able to work out and strengthen that?
It kind of feels like that the way you see like Trevor throughout the episode. So possibly, I guess. And like do they have need to do it up until now? So maybe that's why they're also bad at it.
I imagine they just developed out of boredom, right? Like you're there for hundreds of years, you learn weird new things to do.
So they're going over like what each person has for like a skill. Thor has this thing where because he was like electrocuted, he was struck by lightning, right? So like he can kind of flicker lights and play with electric things.
He can control currents.
He's like, I am powerful. And then we get to Isaac's thing, which is 1,000% the reason Gordo will probably greenlight this
1,000%.
show.
Yeah.
And we learn that he died of dysentery. And as a result, when people walk through him, it creates a terrible fart smell.
That's the spooky dookie.
It is.
It is.
I mean, anybody who's played Oregon Trail has died of dysentery. Come on. It's happened to all of us.
Yeah.
Yes, but never have we walked through a ghost. Well, maybe we have.
No, I'm pretty sure that's a dysentery ghost. I did not fart.
Gordo's going to save that as an excuse from now on. It wasn't me, it was a dysentery
Was
ghost.
it a dysentery ghost?
What a horrible way to die.
Dysentery?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a tough one.
Is that like, that's gone now, right? That doesn't happen anymore?
No, I think you can
Not
still
in this
get
part of the
dysentery.
world.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
can still, people still die of dysentery in like 2024?
It's like bacteria from food, right? Or am I wrong?
No,
Like,
it's shitting yourself.
yeah, but the cause of it is bacteria in your body that you can fix it if you're in a place with like medicine, but you can still get it. You can still have a bacteria in your body that causes you to have that reaction and give you dysentery. And I mean, people were having it in like Vietnam soldiers had problems with that stuff.
Dysentery it's like the result of a multiple different thing.
Yeah.
Like it can be like a virus or a other thing that gives you dysentery, which as far as I can tell is just like bloody crap.
It's mainly from, I believe, drinking not good water.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's essentially just like deathly diarrhea.
Essentially,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Spooky.
yeah. So they're going through all this stuff, and that's his power. Alberta is a singer, and when she sings, it can like some of that sound could transcend so the living can kind of hear it.
it works. It was so much more effective with the little girl ghost.
Little girl singing is just genuinely more creepy, I think.
It's always going to be creepy, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was it's kind of the one that seems to be the most. Hers was like maybe the most powerful. It gets kind of thrown away later. We'll get into that scene when we cover it, but
I don't know. Thor's was pretty powerful.
it seemed
Yeah. Out of all of them,
compared to what everyone else was doing.
Yeah, if they didn't turn the radio on in that scene, that would have been way more powerful than anybody else's power.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think powerful's the wrong word. Effective.
More effective, yeah, more noticeable.
Because I would think, what's his name's power would be the most powerful. The ability to interact with actual objects when no one else can.
But I'm thinking of power as far as the how noticeable it can be, like through like strength, not through like muscle strength, but strength is like how projected it is, you know? When they talk about her singing, that's when Pete suggests that she hums the song from the movie Ghost, which that is a bit of a blunder though. Ghost came out after when his character allegedly dies. That is one thing that was discovered later on.
Yeah, Ghost is like what, 1990, 91?
It's like 90, 91, I think 90 maybe, and he died in the 80s, like mid 80s.
They bring up the movie Ghost, and the way the other dude moves stuff, it's exactly the same as Patrick Swayze when he learns to control his powers. The 2 fingers and everything.
Do you think they just couldn't afford the rights to the Righteous Brothers song? They were like, we just can't do that. We'll just have her sing something else.
I'm guessing she just didn't know the song because she never heard of it.
Do you think Pete would be able to teach it to her, though?
The show avoided using music.
Yeah.
Small comparison, again, UK version used a few licensed songs, and this didn't use any. So this was the opportunity where they are blatantly talking about a song that they could interject here, and they didn't.
It's also not a scary song. It doesn't really fit.
No, it does, but for the sake of
not
the
a scary scene in Ghost, it's like a sexy scene.
Yeah, like what if like Whoopi Goldberg just comes out of nowhere and just...
If the ghost of Whoopi Goldberg came out in the show.
I mean, that would be scary. R.I.P. Whoopi Goldberg. I hope Ted Danson didn't have a hard time carrying that coffin.
It definitely R.I.P.
When he's trying to explain the movie Ghost, this is again a situation where most of them don't know what movies are. So Isaac's like, all right, like, Pete, no need to like explain it. Like, we don't really have time for this right now. And he's going on. He's like, oh, and there was like this amazing scene where like the main girl is like making pottery with this hunky shirtless guy. And he's like, well, you know, we have a little time, you know, haunting isn't imminent. So, you know, go on.
They give Isaac the most personality of any of the ghost characters, I feel like, in this episode. Even though it's one thing and it's one trick, they just do it so much that you're like, okay, well, we know who this character is.
Yeah, Trevor's up there too. Trevor's like a close.
Yeah.
Because they fall into like tropes the most.
On Thor, his trope is Viking. Like, not much more you can go with that.
And doesn't come up that often anymore, but Trevor from back when cocaine was cocaine.
Then it turns into like, well, Trevor, like, what you do is amazing. Like, so you should probably be like the big part of the haunt at the end. All the ghosts start cheering for a demonstration. And we see that like with enough power and focus, he can like actually move objects. So, but it's, you know, small ones and barely. Like, so basically like, you know, you keep seeing like the example like teacups. Like if he like really like puts all his strength and focus into it, he can like tip a teacup a little bit.
So that's one of my favorite effects is they show him struggling and screaming, and then they cut to what the rest of the world would see.
Yeah,
I love that.
And like
effect.
the thing would move and he's not there.
Tiny little bit.
Throughout the show, I like whenever they do the effect where they cut to what we see as the viewer and what we would see if we were a human in the room, like when they're not visible. Like I like when they do that all the time. It's like such a simple camera effect, and it puts it into perspective, especially when it comes to like a teacup flickering.
It's nice to be able to see both worlds separately because you see most of it together for the majority of the show.
Yeah, I like that too a lot, actually.
Because it's just, in one reality, it's just very peaceful. The other, it's just intense, struggling scene.
Yeah.
You know, they're all feeling good because, you know, he got a little bit of that movement, so everyone's like cheering and stuff. Like, all right, I think we're good to go, and let's get ready for tomorrow morning. And then we flash to it, and that's when we see Jay in the shower, and he screams because the hot water's turned off. You know what? I'll say this. I don't think I'm physically capable of taking a cold shower anymore.
Really? I do it all the time.
Hate cold showers.
Yeah, I don't think I could do it either. I hate the idea of that.
Especially in the summer, like when I finish working out in the morning and it's 100 degrees out and you're disgusting from sweating, like I don't want to take a hot shower. I need to take a cold shower.
We get it. You work out. You bring it up like once an episode.
You see pictures of me. I am not in good shape. I don't mean it that way. I'm just saying, in this scenario, if you're sweaty in the summertime, you take a hot shower, that's gross.
Little did we know, week by week, you've been playing into Ferg's insecurities.
Yeah.
Why do you think I dressed as a skeleton? Until you think I'm skinny.
You do cold shower only?
In the summertime when it's really hot out.
Yeah, I mean, the hot is what cleans you, though.
I think cold water still cleans you, as long as you're using soap.
It doesn't.
Jumps your system, gets your heart pumping, and puts oxygen into you. It's actually really good for you.
It's actually good to cycle between the two. If you go hot and cold, it moves your blood through your body better.
Coming out of a hot shower, though, in the summertime, you're like, the humidity hits you and you are just wet all over. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
I'm a lukewarm guy.
I like my showers hot, my coffee cold. I take the hottest showers.
He likes cream
until
in
I
both,
run
though.
out of water.
I said he likes cream in both.
In my shower?
Yeah, it was not a good joke. I don't know why we went back to it.
Listen, man, stay in your lane. You have back-end jokes.
Nick trying to jump into the Goo Goo Boys. Yeah.
And then there was one.
No, that wasn't even the lane I was going in. I was just thought it would be funny if it was like actual cream in the shower for some reason.
And that's how you know me and Joe are,
Yeah,
true team cum
fucked
guys.
up.
Yeah, true Google boys.
Gordo, I know you like the idea of the name, and like every now and again you could jump in for a Goo Goo Boy joke, but we know where your alliance truly stands.
Jay's saying you're not allowed. It's just him and Joe alone in the Goo Goo Shack.
In a hot shower.
He doesn't
When
want any
Gordo's involved,
company.
that's when it's Goo Goo, and then otherwise it's just the regular teams. But like I'm just saying, at the end of the day, if Gordo had to pick one, for his level of humor for the rest of his life, it's we know he's aligned with you guys.
You know what? We always welcome him. We don't cast him away, you jerk.
It's like you elitist cum boys.
Elitist cowboys.
The ECBs.
All right, can we make that an NWO style t-shirt?
I will.
ECB for life. That cum is too sweet.
If that was on the
of
merch
pineapple.
store, that would have to be flagged as mature.
Yeah.
No, T-Public, I think, yeah, you just set the settings on no filter.
Elitist Cumboy shirts. Yeah, coming soon to the merch page. Yeah.
Coming soon.
You guys could be the dysentery dudes or something.
Oh. Hey, dysentery dudes.
Dun, 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 dun.
Poor Mr. Ernst died of dysentery that day.
We're the Doo Doo Boys.
For Halloween, we really leaned into the dookie part, huh? So
Doo Doo is Doo Doo.
Can we make it officially spooky dookie?
no, it's unofficial forever.
I think it's officially unofficial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's how it works.
Yeah, the unofficial part of the name. It's officially.
Yeah.
So he's in the shower, and that's when you see like Isaac walk out from the room, like comes through the bathroom door and into the hallway to be like, "Okay, people, he's coming out. Man your posts." And it's like obviously it was going to be Isaac who volunteered for that. Everyone's like really excited at the idea of this haunting thing. This is very this is the Beetlejuice, plot.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that didn't click with me. That's a good call.
I feel like the fuck up here is like, hey, mess with the electrical system, where it's like you just moved into an old falling apart house. Like they're never gonna think that's anything except for faulty electronics.
Yeah. Oh shit. Another thing we have to fix.
Right.
I think you're going to do that with anything supernatural. You're going to try to think of... It'll go one way or the other. You'll think everyday things are, that's got to be ghosts, or like scary things. It's like, oh no, that's just the electrical. That's just the old house.
The Keurig is haunted. Like, nope, it's just old. It doesn't work right anymore. It's just a piece of machinery.
There's no middle ground.
Jay's walking out of the bathroom into this hallway, which is now basically set up as like a haunted obstacle course. And it starts with like the light flicker from Thorfinn. He's like, and you see like the light flicker a little bit, but he's like, what the fuck? So Jay just walks over to the switch and he starts like flicking the switch off and on.
Which kills Thor.
Which, apparently like causes great pain to Thor. So he gets past phase one pretty good. I was going to ask you guys, because that's how I perceived it too, like that somehow this caused him pain.
No, I think he just was struggling and he ran out of energy. I think the switch.
I took the light flicker as like something that was like uncomfortable for him.
I will say, I think it's funny anytime somebody yells man down. I don't know why, but those are like two words together that will always make me laugh. So when Thor goes down and they yell man down, I was like spitting laughing.
So he passes that. Now Jay keeps walking and gets to obstacle 2, which is Alberta's singing. And as soon as she starts to sing, we like get that like flash to like where we can hear her coming through in the real world, but that's abruptly cut off because Samantha got the stereo working. So that music drains out her singing instantly. So past phase 2, now we get to the next spot, which is, again, Gordo's favorite moment of the whole episode.
The spooky dookie.
Isaac has to run in front of him, and then as Jay walks through, you get the walkthrough, but, typically it's just something that's just painful for the ghost, but in this case, he's in pain, but the smell leaks into the real world.
Good for Isaac, though, for taking the hit for the team. Like, he does the one thing that, I guess you could say that, it hurts Thor, what he's doing as well, but, it's painful to walk through, and he takes the bullet.
Yeah. And I do like that because of the smell. Now it's like, if you think about it perspective-wise, Samantha's in the hallway with them. Right as they get close, there's this fart smell. And even though there's all these ghosts in the room, they don't know that. So, can you understand, the reality of that argument where they're both, 100% sure it's the other one who farted? But, because he even says, he's like, you're the only other person in the room. There's no way it can't be you.
Listen, my wife and I have these conversations all the time. Usually it's the dog, occasionally the cat.
The dog. But this part has my favorite line in the whole episode when he says, "You have a cute butt, but it's got a foul mouth."
I have that highlighted, and I thought that was going to be Joe's opener. Specifically.
It's in my list of things to do. Yeah, it's a really good line.
It's the one note in my notes that's a completely different color because I was so sure that was going to be the one that he flagged.
I was fucking dying.
So yeah, they from this fart argument, because they're going back and forth and debating on who farted, they're missing Trevor's attempt to move the vase. So he does move it a little bit, and you get that flash camera back and forth like we talked about, where you see him doing it versus what they could see, which is just the vase moving on its own. And it is ever so slight. It's not like he's doing anything major with it, but it is moving. But they're locked into this fart argument now, so there's no way that they can notice.
Now, they mentioned here, too, there's the conversation, do you say vase or vase? Jay, I know from your saying it, you say vase. I've always said vase. Does anybody here say vase?
Yeah.
I do not say vase.
No, I'm not a pretentious douchebag. It's vase.
It feels pretentious, right? If you're put the flowers in a vase, you're oh, fuck that guy.
Vase. Oh, we're the house, lovey.
I mean, if you look up how to pronounce vase, it's pronounced vase.
Right.
Is there a specific part of the country that says it that way, typically, or is it just
I would say it's not even this country. I would say it's probably European of some kind.
Yeah, but there's plenty of people in this country who say it.
Yeah, you hear it, yeah.
It's just a case of potato.
Sure, but I'm just wondering if there's a region that, because a lot of times pronunciation is regional. So that's why I was is there a more vase part of the country?
I wouldn't even know how to Google that because
I'm looking at it now. It says if you're British or some Canadian or some Canadians will say vase instead of vase.
Any listeners who say vase, let us know.
We have some British
and then
listeners,
unsubscribe.
So yeah.
And then say it right.
Then correct yourself.
The two walk off after this failed attempt for this haunting, and they're heading down to the basement because Jay wants to try to fix the water. Because basically, with everything going on, he thinks this is one job he should be able to do on his own. He doesn't think everything needs to, pour all this money into it. And I like that she gets down there and she's like, oh, this place is so creepy. And turns the light on, which for us reveals that there's all these, almost zombie-like ghosts that all hang out in the basement area. And when you see them and, how creepy they look, she goes, that's better. Because she obviously can't see them.
And these are all cholera, plague ghosts.
Oh, is that what they are in this?
Yeah. So they're all sort of banished down there because they were put there because they all had diseases to be kept away from the rest of the house and the people.
So can they just not walk?
They have to be. Okay, not to jump ahead into the season, but they almost have a weird vampire logic where they sort of have to be invited upstairs. They live two very separate lives. But the one funny thing, we see it here too, is you learn because they've been in the basement so long, they're all really good at plumbing and electrical because they just see that's all they have is watching things get fixed.
HVAC ghosts.
Yeah, so when you hear him be nope, that's wrong. That's because they just they just
counterclockwise.
That was the best part because he's trying to fix it. He goes counterclockwise. It's in this dark ominous voice.
I really wanted more of them after I had seen them.
Yeah.
And Sean Whalen, too, who's like the one with the sort of...
I was going to bring that up. He's in so many things.
That Thing You Do is the first thing that jumps out at me, but he's in The People Under the Stairs. He's in Superstore. He's in like...
Which they're remaking.
They're remaking People Under the Stairs?
Yeah.
I don't love that.
I think Jordan Peele's doing it.
No, Jordan Peele's not like a big CGI guy, though, right?
No, not really. But none of his movies...
But he hasn't really had that kind of movie yet. He does like more suspense.
You know, I was thinking like the ghost that can sing and they hear her like singing in the real world. Like if she wanted to communicate to humans, could she sing it and would you hear it?
That's a good point.
I think it's only like the way I understood it anyways is it's only like tones. Like she's not going to get like a full word or sentence
We
through.
didn't get a good glimpse of it because like we said, the stereo cuts it off so fast. We never really got like a lot of it. And Joe, speaking of Sean Whalen, you forgot to mention that he was in the 1999 classic Never Been Kissed.
Oh, I do have that because that's one of the things I think about too, and that's a moment in time Jay and I will always share.
I will share that too, just for a different reason.
It's so sad the clock runs out, man. What, are you made of stone?
No, you're all wrong, all right? That movie's got the wrong message about pedophilia.
I mean, like, that's also the thing, too, going back. We were like, you definitely couldn't make a movie now like that, or like 21 Jump Street. You, like, watch the TV show 21 Jump Street. You're like, oh, all these adult cops go to high school, and you're like, I have an idea. That's bad. Nothing good can come from that.
Times change. Hey, like in the 80s, it was extremely popular to like sing about how much you liked underage girls. And, you know, you don't get that in a lot of lyrics these days.
Yeah, Wingers, She's Only 17. Probably not going to be a song somebody sings these days. Only is the weird word of it too, I feel like.
There's also like even like I think it's like Belle Biv DeVoe, like they've had songs about it. What's that? Who's the singer? If I could fly, I'd lift you up. Like what who you know that song?
I'll break you into the night.
Great song. And it starts off with, she was 16 years old.
Yeah.
Leave her alone, they said. It's like, oh,
it's one of those things too where it's like, she was 16 years old. You're like, ooh. And it's like, leave her alone. You're like, oh. It's like, they said, oh. Like, oh, you fucking took me on a roller coaster there. If you're a shithead.
He's like, and then to be that guy and to be like, I know, I'm so right that I'm going to write a song about it.
It's like, no, guys, I should have been able to date that 16-year-old.
So, anyways, getting right out of that. Jay thinks he fixed the water situation, but we know from these guys in the basement, the ghost down there, that he absolutely did not. But they walk back upstairs. And then there's that, well, at least they left the light on, and then click. Damn it.
I feel so bad for them.
Yeah, they just live in darkness.
Yeah.
Darkness in a basement, like all alone, and nobody comes down to even say hi to them. I mean, I bet they're all... You must invent games and stuff, right?
Yeah, but if it's like super dark, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, and also like I Spy doesn't really work when it's like something that says starts with oil heater. Thank you for playing over and over again.
And then we cut over to Trevor, and Trevor's like still upstairs in the hallway, and the vase that he was trying to move earlier, he's just like still working on because, like we said, it takes like basically all his power and focus to get it to move like a really insignificant amount of space. So he's trying to like work on this. So like we brought up earlier, I guess that's something that you can work on and like build your power up. He's like off doing that on his own until like Scoutmaster Pete comes and he's just kind of hanging out with him.
This is not like Chekhov's vase too, where you're like, okay, so you know that, like, you look at the clock on this, you're like, okay, there's like 5 minutes left in this episode. You know that this is going to play into the end of it.
Yeah, I didn't know how at first. Again, it's kind of one of the biggest differences of the whole episode, and we'll talk about that after. But you know, we get back to Samantha and Jay, and they're going back and forth, and they're talking about like they got to go to New York, and then something about like when they get back, and then it becomes like Jay's like, well, if we come back, so that's like, oh, we're gonna have that conversation, and he finally gets it out. He doesn't want to say it at first, but it's like, I don't want to move here, and when he finally tells them that, we see some of the ghosts are like watching on, and they're having like this whole thing, and the ghosts are like, oh wow, this just got interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Thor's like, yeah, like finding new type of cod interesting.
What is cod infatuation?
It's such a stupid joke, but I think it's funny. Like it's
funny,
so dumb.
Are there a lot of types of cod?
That's why it's so interesting. Imagine finding out about a whole new type of cod.
I don't have any Vikings to ask either. It sucks.
There is Atlantic cod, Pacific cod, rock cod, blue cod, Murray cod, Greenland cod. So there is way more types of cod than I would have thought.
Sure, there it is.
Oh my god.
Cod peas.
Okay, Joe, enough. Jesus.
Sorry, guys. I need to bring
Joe,
the mood
come
down.
on. If you put that on, what happens if you get rock cod?
I don't believe in cod.
What if cod was one of us?
Oh, just
Blah,
a
blah,
fish
blah,
on
blah.
the bus sitting next to somebody going to work. It's the dead fish from the end of the Faith No More video. Where you're like, this is sad. Somebody please put that fish in some water.
And I guess it could be scrod, too.
Well, isn't scrod always just the catch of the day?
Yeah, it's like whatever white fish they have. It's usually cod or haddock.
So the couple continues to argue, and it's basically like this whole idea of Jay feels like he gave it a shot. Like they moved here, or they at least showed up, and like they looked at it, and he tried to be open to it, and he doesn't like it. This isn't where he wants to live. The house needs so much work, a lot more work than they realized. And I don't think that this is an argument that you just have in the moment like this, but I can see his perspective now. Like he was pretty negative about it, but he did give it a shot. And this isn't exactly like a fantastic situation. So I can see his disdain about moving out here.
This is definitely a full month-long conversation, though. This is like a pros and cons list. How do we do X, Y, and Z? Are we gonna? You have to think too. If you're gonna start a hotel, she's freelance, so she can. I mean, maybe he can get a job as a chef somewhere near there. But like, you're gonna have to go on a. People aren't gonna get money for a lot of time.
Yeah, I just feel like you have to be like something like moving to a whole different area. You both really have to be like really invested in it. Because if that's something that like you really truly don't want to do and you're just doing it to appease the other person and you really don't like it, it's going to weigh on you.
Oh, it'll blow up someday for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So like you guys have to be somewhat on the same page with things like this.
I imagine post-COVID, like a lot of people who like, because you always hear people be like, we moved to like, I don't know, Idaho, or we moved to like, we bought a big house in the middle of nowhere because it was COVID, but then like that wears off where like the world comes back and now you're in the middle of nowhere and you're like, oh shit, like that's, and then the house is probably not worth much either, and now houses are so much more expensive everywhere else. Like I bet there's a lot of those arguments happening, and like
it reminds me of for those of you who have seen it, the last season of Barry.
Yes,
when they just live in like the middle of fucking nothing. It just seems so depressing.
As they're arguing, we get a couple different cutaways, and it's always to Trevor, who's trying to get this like vase to fall over. And on the second time they cut to him, he finally is able to get enough strength to get it onto the floor. And I kind of thought it was the way they showed it. I felt like for sure it should have broke.
Yeah.
You just see this like ceramic vase fall off the table onto a hardwood floor, and they zoom in on it, and it's just like doink, like it's a piece of plastic.
And then the Three Stooges gag coming up next wouldn't have worked as well.
The argument kind of like escalates. And to the point where she's like, you know, she thinks he's just unwilling to try, and she storms off angry. When that happens, you know, she leaves the room and she starts going down the hallway. And of course, everything's going to come to a head here. She walks over to the vase that Trevor had finally just willed onto the floor, trips over it, and falls down like a couple flights of stairs. And it was like a brutal fall.
It was it was.
What I don't get about this, though, is that, like, when they come into the house in Home Alone and they step on the micro machines and they fall, that makes sense because micro machines are small enough that your regular step would have stepped on them. You'd have to be walking like the Keep On Trucking guy to have your feet high enough in the air that you would stand on a vase and, like, slip and fall. Like, you'd kick it more often than not.
They were just fighting, so she's storming off. So maybe she's angry
actually marching down the road.
But yeah, she goes down super to the point where like even like to be like a stunt double or something for her in the scene, like it was an ugly looking fall down the steps.
Stunt people are fucking amazing. We're like, that was somebody's job. It's like, we want to do is like, I can fall down the stairs and make it look real bad, but like, sure, here's your $8. Like, holy shit, what a fucking crazy job that is.
And as you mentioned earlier, this is like one of the biggest changes from the British one.
Yeah,
because it goes out the window in the British one, I think.
Well, Isaac pushes her, not Isaac, I'm sorry. Trevor pushes her out the window.
The counterpart, yeah. So she falls to the bottom of the stairs and she's like looking up and like her eyes are blinking, and you see Jay run over her to make sure she's okay. And we're seeing it through her perspective. So like the camera's kind of moving and fuzzing in and out while, you know, Jay's standing there asking if she's all right. And it's one of those things, if you don't know in the moment, you might not catch it, but you can see Pete and Trevor at the top of the stairs looking down at her when you're looking through her perspective, which would be the first time that you would be told that she can now see these characters.
I didn't notice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's kind of like wavy eyes, and
And I'll tell you this, Ferk, both shows did it, but it's like, but you wouldn't know unless you look back for it after. You know what I mean?
It didn't click to me. I didn't even good pickup.
But it's a smart little thing. Like if you notice it, you notice it, and if you don't, like, I mean, they'll clue you in soon enough. But
yeah,
after that happens, it cuts to a little bit later, and you see Sam being loaded into an ambulance, and the ghosts are all kind of watching this happen from inside the house. And the one is like quick to call Trevor a murderer, and he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. He's like, I didn't mean for her to trip and fall. Like, believe me, I would never intentionally hurt anyone that hot.
I feel like this whole scene, like, that makes sense. That's funny for Trevor. I don't love this next scene, though, and the way it ends.
Well, it's weird because now they're all kind of reflecting on their real lives. And you have like that hippie girl talking about when she died and how Ira looks so scared. Ira is her partner. Ira could be whatever, so I don't know one way or another.
I like to think it's Ira from Mad About You.
I knew that's where you were going. It's the only other Ira I've ever heard of. Yeah.
There's an Ira in
she actually does say he later in the line, so we can assume Ira is a man. She's talking about how he looked so scared in her last moments, but then that's probably also because he was trying to escape a bear.
Oh yeah, they brought it up earlier in the episode. We didn't talk about it, but she died. She got killed by a bear. She's got slashes across her back.
Yeah, Flower, she left a like hippie festival and tried to pet a bear, and it mauled her to death.
That's fair. I bet that's happened in real life.
I mean, I'd rather be mauled to death by a bear than listen to like fucking Jefferson Airplane. So I don't know.
Really, I'd rather listen to Jefferson Airplane than die from a bear, Joe.
Joe, don't you randomly like the Grateful Dead?
No, I like the Grateful Dead's 2 albums where they did Americana. That's very different. None of this 9-minute long fucking solo bullshit tie-dye.
That's how they get you.
No, it's been many a year. American Beauty and Working Man's Dead. That is it.
Hey, you're gonna be listening to Casey Jones.
Casey Jones is on American Beauty.
The Ninja Turtle?
Yes.
I like the idea of
from the Monkees.
Elias Koteas doing a Grateful Dead cover band. I would go see in a hockey mask with a little teddy bear on it.
I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't tell you a single Grateful Dead song.
Me either.
I know who they are. I don't know any of their songs.
I could tell you Touch of Grey is the only one I can name by name.
All I know is that everybody I know who's a Deadhead, I don't really like. So
I don't mind them. Like, you sit through enough Grateful Dead cover band nights that you go, okay, that's not a bad song.
It's just so long and meandering and boring. That's why those 2 albums that are just like doing country songs are good, because they're songs that end in 3 minutes that are written well.
So, one of the other stories you're getting is Pete, the Scoutmaster, and he's talking
this
about...
was way too depressing, by the way. It way too much.
He's telling the story of the last time he talked to his wife and how sometimes you don't realize in the moment that your last conversation with someone's going to be your last conversation with someone. And, he doesn't even remember what it was about. As this is happening, they're showing cut footage of Samantha going through the hospital and being checked and having her brain scanned and all this shit. But yeah, it was a super sad story. And he's even speaking different. He's doing sorry to all you guys, but we do wrestling references all the time. It's like when WWE would want you to think something serious is happening, so they have Jerry Lawler talk in his actual voice.
Whenever there's an injury.
Here's the difference. Puppies!
Yeah.
They killed puppies. You're like, oh, thanks, Jerry. Thanks for doing that.
So he's like, the scout guy's like talking in a much more serious tone. He sounds completely different in the moment. But then they try to balance it with the joke at the end where it's like, oh, I remember what that fight was about now. Donut holes. Like, it's too late. You've already made this super sad.
She ate them all. That's selfish, bitch.
I do like setting up, though, that you're like, okay, because you never know in a show like this, like, are you going to... Other people could be still alive, right? Like for Pete or for Trevor. So, like, if you set up that his wife sucks, that feels to me like you're going to see his wife eventually.
I would have preferred it being a different ghost, if I'm being honest with you, because the fact that he died and he's in the whole scout outfit, it just seems like he'd be like a sad, lonely virgin.
Yeah, Pete's too sweet.
Not married.
Yeah, well, it can't be Trevor. Trevor, we already know, is like more of a womanizer. And we already know Isaac is definitely not a womanizer. So, like, you're running out of people.
Be Thor or Sass.
Could have been the greaser.
Yeah, it could have been the greaser's head.
Greaser could probably do it, yeah. That could have actually been a fun scene because his head could have just been on the floor the whole time. They could have just cut to his head on the floor.
Yeah.
Would have been like a nice way to actually sneak him into the episode a little bit more too, actually. That would have been good. After all that speech and the whole, like, the little punch joke to get out of it after, we cut back to the hospital, and now we see Jay, and he's, like, sitting there with his hands over his face. The doctor walks over to him and puts his hand on his back, and he goes, "It's a tough loss." And then a second later, you hear the toilet flush, and Sam exits the bathroom with, like, a neck brace on. What's wrong? The Knicks blew a 10-point lead to the Nuggets.
So dumb.
Are they both? The only way this works is if you find out that both of them are degenerate gamblers and they gambled like $50,000 on this game. Otherwise, that is the not inappropriate response for either of them.
I feel like this scene wasn't set up well. They should have made it look like she died, and they don't really show that. They just cuts to them saying it was a tough loss.
Yeah, either lean into it or don't touch it at all, and they didn't do a good job of it, yeah.
Because I never had the thought that she died. Like, there was nothing to show me that to make me go, oh shit, did she live or die?
She replies to that with, well, I hope you were at least upset when I was technically dead for 3 minutes. And important line. You know, it's like, all right, let's get you back home. So now we cut back to the house, and it's like another one of those, like, story time situations. Alberta's singing to everybody. It's like, oh, thanks, Alberta. Don't know how many times I've heard that song. And someone's like 487, but it gets better every time. And as she's finishing the song, the car pulls up, and they're like, Thor's like, land ship.
I do love land ship. I do like the idea of calling a car a land ship.
I like calling people that are alive the livings.
Yeah, the livings.
So they see that the car's back, that she didn't die, and they're waiting out front together, and they're talking. And she's like, I thought we were going home. Like, oh, well, before we swung by the house, I want to come here real quick because there's something I want to show you. And then, like, no sooner, like, we see a couple, like, construction vans pull up next to them, and he talks about, you know, I talked to the contractor, and I needed an estimate to figure out how much things were going to be, and it's way worse than I imagined, but I'm all in with you. I took out, you know, I maxed out my credit cards, and I cashed out my IRA, even though I was strongly advised not to do so. And I'm here for you. We're gonna go ahead and do this.
I'm so glad he got his redemption, because I fucking hated him until this
point. He needed
like,
it for sure.
Hated him, and then I'm like, ah, Jay, good dude.
Yeah, he gambled his retirement and everything else for her. You're like, okay, well, he's a good guy now.
Because, you know, she's like, well, what happened? It's like she can't figure out what happened. It's like, well, since you almost died. He's like, you know, it made me realize I don't care where we live because I just, you know, I want to be with you.
Great little cutaway joke here, too, is Hetty's anti-Irish thing. She sees the truck as O'Malley's. It just goes, O'Malley. You fucking killed me.
Yeah, that was good. I like how they called that back a couple times.
When you cut into the Ghost 2, it's like, oh, I'm glad they made up. I'm very glad Samantha's okay. And then it's like, wait, who are those other people? It's like, oh, it looks like a construction crew. That's when she says that, and we cut back inside, and now the construction crew's like going like not wild, but they're like all through the main area of the house, and they're doing all this work, and they're like sizing stuff up, and you can hear like the foreman like sending orders, and Samantha's just kind of walking around like as all this is happening, and she looks over and she sees Trevor standing there, and she's like, "Oh, you're dressed kind of nice for a construction worker," and like walks off, and he's like, "Oh," because you know she's not supposed to see him. And he runs off to go find the rest of the ghosts.
I think the writing's really poor at this part because the second they walk in, all the contractors are like, hey, electrical guy. Yeah, water guy.
Yeah. Greg Pipe guy, get over here. We got an issue with the sink.
Is that what you all call each other in the profession?
I feel like that's like, you know, when you see like actors and like extras in a movie talking, like that's like they just put the microphone up to them by accident. Because, like, you're not supposed to ever hear them, you know, and they're just probably just being like, and now we're talking on a podcast. And on a podcast is like, whatever. It's like, they just, like, probably should have muted the microphones on all of those people.
The thing is, it's like, it's Hollywood. These writers couldn't have gone to the set and, like, there's union guys everywhere. Hey, if you were talking to your coworkers, how would you do this? And
right. Hey, guy holding the lights right now, what would you say?
And we cut back to the room with all the ghosts in it, and Trevor runs in, and he's telling them, like, she talked to me. Like, I think she kind of hit on me too, and I'm not entirely sure, but there was definitely a spark there, but she talked to me. And, like, when he does it, he, like, raises his arms in excitement, but it just exposes, like, why did they like, blurred out his underwear?
No, it was supposed to be his dick.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be just that he's naked.
Oh, was it? But it was so obviously white. That's why I was like, why did you, like, blur out his tighty whities?
I think we're supposed to be under the assumption that when he died,
his dick and balls were out.
Yeah, he was not wearing any pants or underwear.
Sure. I understand that area, but it was so blatantly not even try. Usually they get you in, like, a fleshy underwear thing to, like, kind of cover the color.
Maybe he hasn't seen the sun.
It was bright white. But
yeah.
But apparently, he's
a ghost.
Then.
It's a ghost penis.
Ghost dick. Ghost peen. Ghost tallywhacker. Supernatural schlong.
Okay.
A peepee geist. I've been sitting here since the start of this conversation trying to think of one.
I'm trying to think of one
It
now
was
too,
that
and
long.
I can't.
And now we're cutting into Samantha and Jay, who are back in their bedroom. And this is when he's revealing to her his, like, surprise, which is he painted the bedroom like the canary yellow that she was looking at, and, like, kind of redid the whole bedroom, which I felt like, do you think he did it, or did he just paid the contractors?
Probably paid the contractor.
Yeah, it had to have been the contractor because he was in the hospital with her. He wouldn't have had time.
Although if you're going to paint anything, painting is a pain in the ass, obviously. But if you're going to paint a big room with mainly just big walls, that's an easier lift.
Yeah, but also if you already hired contractors and they're coming anyway, hey, paint this first.
True, too. I'm already paying you. Might as well paint this room. 3 guys will do it in like 10 minutes.
So she's admiring the room and, like, looking around, and then all of a sudden one of the ghosts walks through the wall, and she's like, what the hell? He's like, yeah, you're right. It's a lot of yellow. But, you know, I thought, you know, if we could mute the accent wall a little bit, and then as he's talking, more and more ghosts are walking in, but only she can see them. He can't. She's like, this can't be real. And he's like, okay, you're not loving it. That's fine. It's just paint. And he's trying to be really good about everything.
I do like their back and forth here.
Yeah. And there's a point where he's just like, what are you looking at?
This is played for comedy, but I could easily see this in a horror movie. You change the tone of the music, make it a little darker, and this scene is very scary. Where they're coming through and she's seeing them
walking into a room. Yeah, she doesn't know if they're friendly or not.
Yeah, especially with the last.
They start talking. It's like, I think you're right. She can see us. She says, "Who are you?" But again, Jay doesn't understand that there's other people in the room. So he goes, "Hi, I'm Jay. I'm your husband. Do you need to lie down?" Right as that happens, one of the ghosts tries to finally explain to her what's going on. And as it's being explained to her, the headless ghost walks in. What's his name? Crash or something like that? The greaser?
I don't think they give him a name.
He's credited with the name. I don't think it was ever said.
It's credited as Crash, but they don't ever say it.
But yeah, the headless ghost from the beginning of the episode, like, walks in the room. So now she just sees this ghost in particular with no head and just starts screaming. And that scream is brings us right to that cut to black, which ends the episode.
Which is the proper reaction when somebody with no head walks into your room.
Yes.
You imagine how scared she's going to be the first time she goes into the basement now?
Yeah, right.
She's like, wait, isn't that the guy from That Thing You Do? Ah!
So that concludes the episode. I don't have too much else to say about it. I mean, anything else is more comparatively, which we'll do in a little bit separately, but a good ending. It's the cliffhanger you want, right? It's going to make you want to watch the next episode.
It's exactly the cliffhanger that you want, because I am very curious. Not to tip my hat.
And again, especially like we always talk about in the world of streaming now, where like it's just going to go like that little 5-second timer is going to run out for the next episode, and you're not going to change the channel. So
with all that in mind, might as well get into the green light or cancel. Let's be spooky about it. I'll go reverse order. Gordo, starting with you.
Much like Ghost UK, this left me on the right ending, and now I want to see episode 2 just to see the interaction now between her and the ghosts. I liked the episode. I thought it was funny. It was quicker than the UK ghosts, and I like that. But we could save that comparison for later. I liked it, top to bottom. Green light.
Nick.
Yeah, I am also a green light. There was things I didn't love about it, and it all mainly surrounded. God, what's her husband's name? I keep forgetting it.
Jay. I'm told they all suck.
Yeah, like everything about him I don't like, but I feel like the fact that I really like every other cast member kind of made up for it. The cliffhanger, a little too cliffhangery for me, because it leaves you wanting more of the story I feel like you should get in the first episode, but I get why they didn't do it, I guess. But I mean, other than that, yeah, I mean, it's a green light. I want to see more. I like the characters. I like the story, and pretty easy.
Yeah, so for me, this is going to be a green light as well. I thought, we definitely didn't want to compare to the other episode, the UK one, too much. And I do feel like we talked about this outside a little bit before we started recording. I think had I focused too hard on comparing the two, it would have changed my vote, and we'll talk about that later. But as far as this goes, I thought it was fun. Not too much to it. It's just an interesting story. The cliffhanger alone was just it's bringing you into the world, seeing what's next. How is this going to work now that she can see the ghost and he can't? How does that interaction go? It's an interesting enough story. It's a kind of a unique way to deal with like a ghost type show. Good blend of, very light horror, mostly comedy, but a fun watch. So a green light from me. Ferg?
Yeah, I wish we could live in a world where I didn't see the British one first, because it's just so vastly superior. 30 minutes long. This is 22, which normally would be a good thing. But because of the 30 minutes, every ghost, everything in the original is fleshed out. The plan for haunting's more fleshed out. But I'm trying to not focus on that. And watching this is a year removed. I've already seen this like a year ago, and I hated it because I watched it right after the other. Now, watching this a year separated from watching the British one, I enjoyed this, actually. It's surprisingly a show that I hated before. A year ago, I enjoyed this year. The ghosts they have their personalities. I'm sure we'll get to know them over the course. I would have liked a little more for this. That's my one major critique. But, it's funny, and the cliffhanger is effective enough to make me watch more. I'm going to check out more of it. So it actually gets a green light where if we did Ghost, I would have canceled this last year. So it's interesting how time changes things.
Joe.
And not going to rock the boat on this one. I think when you have a show, the premise obviously works, right? Because the original works, and if something works so well, you adapt it somewhere else, then the bones of at least the story and, everything about it is good. And then the key to something like this is getting a good ensemble cast that you'll enjoy watching too, and then building out their storylines, which I think, again, they didn't get a ton of it, but again, a 22-minute pilot episode, you don't expect it. I like this as much as I like the UK Ghosts. I enjoyed watching it again. I might actually rewatch more of it before the new season starts. I think there's a few tonal shifts I didn't love. I did not love the "we think Sam's dead" sad basketball joke, but aside from that, it's a pretty fun show. It's a green light.
So congratulations to Ghosts US version. You are getting a perfect 5 out of 5 from us.
I didn't expect that.
You do. I didn't either. You do live on to see a second episode with us. I want to thank all of you guys for listening. Thank you for listening through the completion of our 4th annual unofficially named Spooky Dookie October. Thanks. Go to S1E1pod.com. Again, that's where you can find all the links to all our stuff. Like, review, rate, all that. Go to our social medias. Give us a follow. Suggest shows you want us to cover for next year's Spooky Dookie. All other theme months you think would be a good idea. Just talk to us in general. How'd you find us? Recommend us to a friend. Do all that stuff. But to not keep you too much longer, thank you guys for listening. Catch you next week. Goodbye.
I think we got the best penis geist.